My name is Robert Rowland, and I am running for Elbert County Commissioner in District 1. Most of you do know me, but I'd like to clarify for those of you who might have any question about who and what I am. I am a conservative Republican with grassroots values that puts God, country, family, and my community first. I'm a proud Republican who believes in a free market capitalist system, the Constitution, and who puts principle and believes that trumps party and all other things. I am a proud Republican who believes that it's up to us, the people in this grand old party, to hold it to those principles, those standards, and those values. It's up to us to set the direction and the tone so that can continue to be the foundation that is necessary to hold this nation together in these difficult times, including this election in November. I believe that the true principled conservatives across this nation, and under the flag primarily of the Republican Party, but calling themselves and ourselves Tea Parties or 912ers or just good old-fashioned patriotic Americans, realize that it's time to reject the idea of putting anything else before our true principled conservative values and principles. Those that made our party, the Republican Party, and our nation, the great nation that it is today, and the great party that it is today. I believe that we must have the courage and the resolve to hold ourselves accountable if our elected officials stray from those principles and values. I believe that Elbert County is in trouble. And there's those who disagree with me. But I believe that we are in trouble and that the leadership and the direction that this county's gone in the last 3 years have brought us to a perilous point in our county's history. I think we can restore Elbert County. I know we can restore Elbert County to the county that it needs to be, to preserve this blessed rural lifestyle that we all enjoy, that my wife and my family have enjoyed for over 15 years here, to protect our property values and the future of our children and our community and the opportunities that could present. We have serious challenges. We have a lot of work to do. But we're going to need to make that happen as a community in an open, transparent environment where everybody is welcome at the table of government. We're now just a few weeks away from making that decision, and that decision will be made at the end of June, where we'll have to decide about fiscal restoration in Elbert County and a real balanced budget, resolving the compactor problems and other issues without bankrupting ourselves and trying to resolve those kinds of problems, continuing to protect our water and other resources. I can tell you now, you won't need a pile of open records requests, a CPA, or a lawyer from Philadelphia to get information from me when I become your next commissioner. We need to manage the offices and the people and the employees of our county with fairness, treat it like a business. We need to restore confidence and integrity and a common sense approach to leadership in our county. We need to embrace the opportunities of oil, water, and gas and all the other. You know, there's really, some people have said that transparency is an overused word in political campaigns. Perhaps it is. But the concept and the premise of transparency is not overused, and it can't be overused in my opinion. I believe it is one of the foundational issues for government at every level, including here locally. There really are two components to transparency. There's a legal component. It's called the Open Law Sunshine Act. And we've had some discussions and debates about those recently and working very hard to make sure that those laws and rules are followed. But like a lot of bureaucratic laws and rules, sometimes they are difficult. But the real issue about transparency in government boils down to a moral and ethical issue. We the people means something. It certainly means something to me. I believe that we the people translates into the will of the people. And though we are a constitutional republic, and though we hire and elect people to represent us, we expect them to give us the opportunity and the avenue and the right to input our mandates and our desires and our visions for this county. And that, I believe, has been lacking, and we've been fighting for that, and I think we must continue to fight for that. And I, above all else, will create and be an open door, an open book. I had a former county commissioner tell me something that in the days of old, they actually took the doors off the commissioner's office. I think that's a good idea because if nothing else symbolizes what is necessary in this county. There's a lot of really talented people, Jerry Cooks and the people of water boards and those kinds of talented, visionary educated people who can help us solve these ideas. 3 people can't solve these solutions, these problems, without the input of all those valuable citizens who want to participate. And if they want to participate, they need to be able to participate, and they will be able to participate. Thank you. I think I pretty much addressed the issue of transparency, and I'll just say real quickly once again that as a county commissioner, you won't need a lot of open records requests, a Philadelphia lawyer or a CPA to get the answers. All the people's business will be done in the open. The definition by the accounting standards of a balanced budget is when your assets exceed your expenses. And from a technical point of view, you could argue that point, that when you, just like with your house, if you have a $300,000 house, you have a $100,000 mortgage, you got $200,000 of equity that might exceed your monthly expenses or your annual expenses. But can you go to the grocery store and buy food with your equity in your house, not without liquidating some of that? So I would say that what our problem in Elbert County has been is a cash flow problem from a technical point of view. When we end up each fiscal year short of cash at the end of the year, waiting for the tax revenues to come in on March 1st to pay expenses from the previous year. In an open, transparent government, those invoices, those bills, and those records ought to be available without having to go through a lot of hoops to find out. Thank you. And this question that was asked on the last forum, and I'll tell you the same answer. I have been a registered Republican since I became a Republican in the Young Republicans Club in Michigan, just before I went in the military in 1972. I was a delegate to our little county convention there for Richard Nixon. I know, I was young. But I remained a Republican my entire life until about 2 years before April 10th of 2010, when I got involved in some liberty activities in the state of Colorado, as you all know, Tea Party activities. And I became unaffiliated for about a couple years, and then came to the realization, like a lot of disenfranchised and a lot of with the Senator Dole and the Senator John Marizona, I can't think of his name. But anyway, I came back and registered as a Republican on April 10th when I became the founder of the Elbert County Tea Party. And I actually embarked on a very aggressive campaign to get others to register as a Republican, realizing that the platform that was needed for us to remain conservative and to keep our true principles and values in the forefront is through the platform of the Republican Party. It was that realization, and it is that realization today that will keep me fighting that fight. We must fight within this party, but we must hold this party to the principles and values. And there are principled conservatives. There's 2 kinds of people in our party. There's those who put principle over party, and there's those who put party over principle. That was my concern. That was my anger. And I came back after a 2-year hiatus. And I've been a conservative, true principled, liberty-believing, constitutional Republican ever since. Thank you. You know, it kind of goes to the heart of what we talked about a little bit earlier, is transparency and cooperation in an open format for everybody to participate. Well, everybody means everybody. And that is not just the people who live in the county as citizens, but those who we select as our representative elected officials, too. So the city councils and the boards in these towns are important. But the old analogy kind of comes to mind. You're out in the middle of a storm in a rowboat, and your end's leaking, and I don't help you bail out. Guess what? We're both going to sink. And the reality is, in today's world of economic problems and challenges, and I would encourage you to all come to the next breakfast where they're going to have an economic speaker, because I listened to one yesterday in my leadership program in the Rockies class, and it's pretty frightening where our country may be going economically. We all know that. During these difficult times, just like my parents had to back in the 20s and 30s, we're going to have to become community more than ever, and we're going to have to do our best to come together and solve each other's problems as one and be community to get through these difficult times. Kiowa is in trouble. Elizabeth has issues that sometimes conflict with the county. Those things have to be resolved in a way where you sit down at the table, you respect each other's point of view, and you find common ground. That's what transparency, working together, is all about. And that's what's been missing, and that's what's got to come back if we're going to get through these tough times. Thank you. But in your case, I know, my father said, he used to tell me your tongue wags at both ends, Robert. But First of all, I have a pretty extensive background in transportation issues. I was a transportation manager among all the other duties that I had at the Rocky Mountain News and Denver Post for many years. I oversaw the transportation department, all the trucks, the cars, and all the other things for the fleets. And we had programs like the Rensheimer program where we got reimbursement for employees based upon their mileage, the average driving, the gas, the tire prices, and all those other sorts of things, insurance. And that changed, and sometimes we went to fleet vehicles, and sometimes we went to paying employees directly based upon what was a sound business decision for the county and for the company. And I think that is the criteria. I will say this. Years ago, when I got out of the military, I was a police officer for 2 years in a little township called Ira Township along Lake St. Clair. It's Lake St. Clair in Michigan. I was the bottom of the totem pole on the seniority. And I took home the squad car, the police car, at night sometimes because I was also part of the volunteer fire department and had to go out on every emergency if the beeper went off. And it made sense in a rural county of 400 square miles like ours to have our strategically placed emergency vehicles in places where they could respond and not have to, go down to the fire station or the police station to help somebody out or respond to an emergency. These are all decisions based upon common sense and what is going on at the time. I do believe that we need to look carefully at any vehicles going outside of the service area. And if there's a car being parked at Conifer overnight and costing gas to the county, I think that's a legitimate question that needs to be on the table for discussion. But the bottom line is the county commissioners, and I don't particularly care if I have a county car or not, I'm perfectly willing to get to work like I have for the last 40 years in my own vehicle. But if it makes more sense to have these other county vehicles, fracking, it's kind of a scary word to some people. Just yesterday in my leadership program, the Rockies class, I ran into a gentleman who works for a company that is building recycling centers for fracking water. And I got his business card, and I asked him, I said, would you be willing to come out? He's actually part of our class. I said, would you be willing to come out to Elbert County where this is a huge issue? And he says, absolutely. We have people that will come out and give a presentation on what fracking really is. I'm anxious to see that too. Fracking, one of my responsibilities with the Denver Post and Rocky Mountain News for 30 years was the environmental manager as well as some other things. And so I have a basic understanding of some of the environmental chemical related issues. I think there's a lot, fracking, first of all, let me say this. Our country needs domestic oil and gas, and we need it now. Regardless of what Barack Obama says about providing an environment where we have more oil and gas than ever. That's because we had a mild winter, and there's big stores of oil and of gas right now. But the bottom line is the restrictions of this administration and this policies have created a danger to our country, among other things, and we've got to do our part. Fracking is part of the technology to do that. The record of the oil and gas industry, as far as I can tell, is pretty good, but there are risks, and there's certainly in any human endeavor can be problems. We have to do the education and make sure that it is protected, it is in our regulations, and that we negotiate the kind of deals that ensure a safe exploration of oil and gas and respect every one of your property rights. Those of you big property owners who have the right under the Constitution to explore oil and gas in this community to benefit from it, we have to do that and embrace it. And we are subject to the oil and gas regulations dictated by the legislature, but we can make it. These oil and gas companies don't want to. Thank God we have a system that holds elected officials accountable. It's called the electoral process. And ultimately that is where the voice of we the people will speak as well as should be. We all need to protect that. And I know we have great people in our county who are doing a lot to make sure that that stays safe and protected. Accountability is getting involved. Accountability is going to the meetings, having the opportunity to know about the meetings, getting there and participating, and having a viable system that allows our input. Elected officials are, in fact, elected to make decisions, ultimately. And not every decision that they will make or that I will make will always make everybody happy. But given the opportunity to participate, is what accountability is really all about. And elected officials who don't totally embrace the concept of we the people and open records, open meetings, sunshine laws, and going overboard without a Philadelphia lawyer or a CPA or a pile of open records requests to give transparency to the people and an opportunity to participate is not accountability. That will stop. It is the fundamental belief. It is the foundation of who and what I am, that I am one of the we the people.